Welcome to another Try and Fly. Today we are looking at an aircraft that I have for some time, and it is a bit older. It's the FlyJsim Dash-8 Q400. It's out since XP11, definitely. And I know that FlyJsim is working or is planning to work. I'm not sure where they are at the moment. Is planning at least to create a new version, a version 2 of this aircraft. But I just wanted to give it a spin here, try it out again, just to see how it is. And I have actually modded it. There's a mod there I found somewhere on the forum, I think, where they describe how you can add a GTN 750 from RealityXP into the cockpit of the Dash. I'm going to show you that a bit later, but at the moment we're going to look at the Dash as it is, and then we're going to try and activate the GTN and have a look at how that works out. So welcome to the cockpit. As I say, this is a slightly older model. It's a couple of years already available, and obviously it's payware because it's from FlyJsim. I think they have done a pretty good job when it comes to the cockpit and the modeling of the cockpit. It looks pretty close to the real aircraft or to the real cockpit, so definitely a good job, principally as all the FlyJsim aircraft are. The outside model though is okay, but is not always, let's say, as high definition. At least some of the liveries also I've seen, they don't appear to be that high definition, and there is no PBR effects or any of these new modern things that you can do with XP11. But that's obviously due to the age of that add-on. When it comes to the the realism, sort of the what is all modeled, it is relatively, well, it's more than basic, but it's not really very advanced. That means that a lot of the switches you cannot use. Okay, so anything that the developer did not deem necessary to fly with this aircraft, yeah, they have not really coded them. So most of this, well, actually all of this fire panel here, for example, is just graphics. Okay, same here, these things, ELT and so on. They just have coded things that are needed to do your flights. Okay, so it is basic in that respect. The same here, and also the navigation. They used to have the standard XP11 FMC, which was not very usable. Didn't win prizes, let's say. But then in XP11 they actually made it possible to use the new FMC, but you have to define what was that? Hang on. And I managed to have it disappear. You have to actually define yourself a key, and it seems that mine has gone, which brings up the FMC window. Okay, only then can you enter things. You cannot use this. This is just fake here. It just shows you where the FMC would be, but it would only work with a pop-up. So you would need to go and define a key to do that. Let's see. FMS, I think. Yeah, it's FMS. And you would have to define a key for FMS1. or for FMS CDU pop-up. Oh, it's F9. Okay, I was using the wrong key. There we go. So you could basically use the standard X-Plane FMC. You can create yourself routes and all, but when it comes to the display, as we will see in a moment when I fire this whole thing up, it's the standard X-Plane unreadable navigation display. Okay, so that's one of the biggest disadvantages in this aircraft, and I sincerely hope that they will improve on that. Yeah. Anyway, let's go and maybe quickly bring up the power. Now in the dash, what you normally do also in the real dash is you turn on the batteries. The thing is, the batteries in real life, they don't hold out very long, so they have power for about 15 minutes or so. So you should not be turning them on and then take a long time to connect some other power source. So basically what you do is you turn on the batteries, and then, for example, you would activate the external power. Now there is something here. In theory, we do have external power, at least there's a switch. But I have observed this, and the switch seems not to work. So the battery is actually discharging up to the point where we are below the minimum voltage. And it seems that this switch doesn't really do anything. I also checked in the menu, which comes with the FlyJsim. You can set cold and dark. You can have engines running. Obviously I haven't got that. You can change the field of view. I have it at 80. It's my standard. You can hide the yokes. You can switch the baro to millibars if you're in Europe like me. And you can open and close the one door that they have modeled, which is the passenger door. Unfortunately, none of the other doors are modeled. But I would see this as a potential thing that they could do for the new version that they're planning to have proper door handling and so on and so forth. You know, I mean, there must be some things improved. And it would be great if they somehow come up with a navigation display and maybe an FMC that is a bit more realistic than what we have now. Okay, so since we do not have officially an external power unit, and I've checked this, it does not work. I'm going to use the procedure where we turn on the battery and then we turn on the APU right after that. Now, normally, what you do is before you power up the APU, you would press this button, it would run through a test, and you would also, before that, you would actually make a fire test for the APU. That does not work here. So all of that here is dead, no fire testing. Then you would start, and then some indication would show that the APU is running. This is not working like that here, as we will see in a moment. It actually stays dark, and but basically the APU is running. So it's a bit weird, but you do get power. So let's turn that on. You can hear already the pinging, and what I'm going to do now is I'm going to press the power button, and normally you should see some. You should see some lights flashing here and so on for the startup test. Then I press start, and then instantaneously the APU is running. That's not like that in the real world. And what I can do now is I can activate the generator, and that will give us power. Okay, and you can see this if you check it here. We can see that the APU generator has a load, which means that all the electricity is drawn from the APU generator, whereas the batteries have plus load. So in other words, they're charging now, and this is the temperatures, by the way, from the main, the aux, and the standby battery. So at the moment we are not using the batteries. If I turn off the generator, you can see that we are actually using the batteries now. And when I turn on the external power switch, we are still discharging the batteries. So that's what I said, is this switch does not do anything, and I have no means of activating the generator with the menu or something like that. At least none that I have understood or found. So let's turn on the generator again. And the other thing you can do, you don't have to, but you can, is you can activate the bleed air. Not that you hear anything. So that would be another improvement for the new version. Let's actually have the relatively loud noise of the air conditioning that would come. When it's a bit darker like it is now, we can turn on the dome lights. The storm is not coded, and you can change the brightness also of all these overhead console, glare shield, and so on lighting, the backlighting. Okay, this up here stays as it is. So I'm actually not sure what happens. No, yeah. The external power APU AC is not coded, and these two switches, they actually stay on all the time, also in real life. They're not turning on off. By the way, the generator switches, as far as I understand, they're also not turned off normally, and the main bus tie stays on too. In case there is some problem on the electric bus, you can use the bus reset. I'm not sure if it's doing anything here. Okay, so I think that means we have now some power. There is no INS or any of that alignment stuff here in this, because we don't really have a proper FMC, and you can now see the default display, navigation display of X-Plane here. Yeah. And the problem with that thing is, I have X-Texture Extractor. You can't read these waypoints. It's not possible to read them because they're microscopic. Yeah, I know I've said this several times. I just think it's one of those areas in X-Plane that really need improvement. And should really be concentrated on, and Zibo is showing how that works, how you can do this. So it can't be that difficult to get at least readable waypoints on a flight plan. Anyway, let's continue. So yeah, I think I've powered up everything as it should be. Now let's go quickly through the rest of the panels. So what we've got here is the ice protection panel. Now again, the switches are coded, but not everything is has all the positions and is doing everything. But we basically have ice protection, so we can only choose between off and fast. There's no manual, there's no slow. So if you want to de-ice your wings, your airframe, that's what you turn on. And then there's this manual select. I suppose in theory you could choose something here. In praxis it just does its thing and it doesn't really care. And there's also the prop. Then there is the prop de-ice. Yeah, you can only turn it on, there's no test. And then you can see how it's kind of alternating between the two props. These are the engine intakes. I'm not sure if I can show you those. Let's have a look and see. That's probably yeah, it's I think it's here. So there's a little door, and I think this is an they kind of close the intake from below, so that when you have ice and snow during movement, that the ice and snow cannot get into the engines. It's closed at the moment, so I can put this into the open position. Question is that actually visible? See? Is that have they opened that thing? Yeah, I think it's opened. I think it is opened. Yep, you can see there's a hole. It's unfortunately very difficult to see. Can we see it now? No. Yeah, but I think there's a hole there. Yeah, I think they have opened it. So it seems to be simulated, but we'll close that again. Ref speeds on and off. I think that's the speed with which this goes around here. Not sure. The boot air, can normal and ISO, and then this is the Pitot static heat. We turn them on. They have 3 Pitot static tubes, 1 for the captain, 2 for the first officer, and then the standby one. And later on we're going to turn them on. Not right now. They do have windshield heating, but they don't. I don't think there are any kind of icing effects here in this version. And in theory there's a wiper, but unfortunately they have not coded it. So we have to rely on the capability of the wind, since we don't have any wipers. Yeah, so that's that. All this ELT and flight data recorder stuff doesn't work. This is the pressurization. It shows that our differential pressure between the aircraft and the ground and the outside is 0. And that's no surprise because we're on the ground, we have a door open. So if that should show anything than 0, it's a problem. It's not right. This here is the engine start panel. Later on we're going to switch this to normal. The ignition, at the moment it's off, and then we select which engine to start, and hopefully we're going to get it to start. This is the landing altitude that in theory you should actually change. In praxis this here is not coded, so I cannot change the landing altitude for the pressurization to automatically depressurize the aircraft on the descent onto the right altitude, so that in the end we have a differential pressure of 0. So this whole thing, there is this outflow. I have no idea what it's doing. Okay, because the rest of the stuff isn't coded. It is basic. Oh, you can. Hang on, you can go manual. All right. Okay, you could in theory go manual here with the pressurization. Haven't tried that. Ah well. Okay, the air conditioning itself, the recirculating fan. This basically it's part of the air conditioning. So on the one hand, you need a source for air, for pressure, for compressed air. That is coming, for example, at the moment it's coming from the bleed air of the APU. And then you have the recirculating fans that actually blow them through the tubes into the outlets where inside the aircraft. Yeah, like here, I think. And these here, the engine bleeds, they stay off until the engines are actually running. And normally before, under normal circumstances, you put this on minimum, and you also leave it on minimum because only with minimum bleed extraction can you start the engine. And you should leave this on minimum until, I think, until after takeoff, if I remember correctly. These are the packs, the engine packs. There are 3 modes: off, manual, and auto. They stay on auto. They're usually not switched. In the real aircraft, you would, I think, see an FA here for flight attendant. So the temperature control could be given to the flight attendant, and then they have a panel inside the cabin where they would change the temperature. In this case, I'm not even sure that this is doing anything. So we just put it on some value. We leave the no smoking on at all times. Put the fasten seatbelt on. In the real aircraft, there's, I think, some automatic mode which would switch from I think on the ground it turns it off, and then, well, in theory it's automatic. I'm not sure that it is here. With this switch you can test all the lamps and indications, and interestingly these are dark. So obviously they haven't been coded, as we can see. Yeah. All right. And in theory, in the real aircraft, you could also switch to dim. So when it's dark, these lights can be quite bright. You can use the dim position, and then it's not as bright when you are in the dark cockpit. I'm going to turn on the position lights, and actually I'm going to start my hardware. Yeah. Just realized that I hadn't started the hardware yet. While it's starting. So once we are in the aircraft, normally the position light is turned on, which indicates that someone is in the aircraft and that there's activity. So I'm going to turn that on in a moment. All right. Now it's on. Position light is on. So we should be seeing the position lights here at the end of the wings. Yeah. And the emergency lighting stays on arm, in the arm position, so that if there is something, they automatically turn on. And then we have the exterior lights, the tail and logo light. That's only makes sense in the dark. The wing inspecting light when we want to have a look around the aircraft in the dark. And that's the beacon respective the strobes. So in the red position it's the beacon. We're going to turn it on before we start the engine, and in the white position it's the strobes. And then we have the taxi lights and the landing lights. So when we come to here, there's the switch for the spoilers. They have automatic spoilers here, and you on the ground you put them into the taxi position. Later on before takeoff, we're switching to flight mode, and that means that they're now armed, that when we land that they automatically deploy and help us slow down the aircraft. And there's a stick pusher, shut off, elevator trim. These are all not coded. All of that is not coded. This is the warning light, the red one and the amber one here. They can be pressed in order to cancel the warning. There's the chronometer. You can actually start the chronometer, and then you can reset it here, and you can switch between local and UTC, I think, something like that. Then we have these are not coded anyway. We have the autopilot. The autopilot has is automatically on both. Normally you could actually select which pilot, on which side the autopilot should be. In this case it's just turned on both. There's a yaw damper. There's an HSI select, but as they are basically duplicated, okay, they're the same one, I don't think that that is actually working. You have heading mode, you have nav mode, you have approach mode, back course, standby, pitch hold basically, and you have an indicated airspeed mode where you can select the speed, and it would then try and keep the speed that is selected. There's a vertical speed mode as a VNAV mode, which doesn't really work. And then there's an altitude hold mode, and it's very important if you use a vertical mode like vertical speed, for example, you must also select ALTCEL if you want the aircraft to stop at a specific altitude. Okay, if you don't do that, it will actually climb through your altitude. It will not stop. So you must make sure that you have selected Alt Cell and that it is white here, armed, basically. All right, the nav source, quite important. VO1, that's what you would need, for example, for the ILS approach. And the other one, so in theory there's also VOR2. It's just very difficult to typical XP11 old style knobs. Here's VOR2, and then that's for the FMS. So if you want to fly a flight plan that's in here, you would turn this to FMS. Okay, over here, right on the side, and it is a bit difficult to actually see, so I'm going to hide the yokes for the moment. Here we have the speed bugs. Okay, you can select the V1, for example, oops, and then you can put a particular V1 and the rotation speed and a V2. Okay, I'm just putting, then there's also the landing speeds that you will set here later, so we're just going to leave it like this. Then there's the barometric setting. I have switched it to millibars. By the way, you need to do this here if you want to switch to millibars. Let's have a very quick check what our weather is. I think it's 1013. Yes, it is. So I'm going to use this to go to millibar. If you push, then you set it to standard 1013 anyway. And then we have here minimum descent altitude or decision height. Decision height is basically the radar altitude, and it's used for Cat 2 kind of approaches, instrument approaches. In the other cases, you would set the minimum descent altitude, which is barometric, by the way, I think. Or maybe not. This looks not like MD. This actually shows. So it looks like it doesn't really matter what I select. It's always decision height. Okay. So I'm just going to put it on 200 for our approach. And again, it is quite tedious to actually set this here. Okay, we're done with this. This is our primary flight display. This is our navigation display. These are the positions of spoilers, elevator, rudder, and so on. In the real aircraft, you can actually move these things to different displays. What happened here is normally you would probably find this more on this display. Unfortunately, we do not have all the flexibility that exists in the real aircraft. So it stays here, and when we use the GTN, which I'm going to show you here too, that actually is a problem because it will be covered. Now, this indication isn't as critical, so I suppose it's okay. Then we've got here the gears. Okay, none of these horn, mute, and all that stuff works. And here's the GPWS, the ground proximity warning system landing flaps. Normally you can select between 10, 15, and 35. In the real aircraft, you normally land with 15. And on short runways, you would probably go on 35. This one is hard-coded with 35. All right. Doesn't mean that you have to land with 35, but it could be that we then get a flaps warning if we land with something that is lower. Then we have the standby hydraulic pressure and PTU control. We turn that on anyway. And this is normally a switch that is guarded. That's the hydraulic number 3 isolation valve. but again, this is not coded. So since we have turned on the standby hydraulic pressure and the PTU control, we actually now have hydraulic pressure apart from number 3. Number 3 is currently offline. So that's normal, by the way. So yeah, all of these side panels, most of the side panels is not used. You can do the brightness here, but that's about it. Everything else is fake. Okay. Also the air supply and all that is all not coded. And again, same here. The switches also for the let me see. All of that here is not coded. The only thing that's coded is the brightness of the backlighting, but the rest is dead wood. Okay, let's come to the display. Here, this is the panel for the navigation display, and you can basically determine what you want to see in the PFD and in the ND. So let me try and bring this. Let me see. Yeah, it's a bit difficult to see. I actually realize these things should not be in this position. They should actually be down here. So let's bring them. Come on. Ah, there you, good boy. So, okay. So this is the display, and if you look at the PFD, you can add an additional readout. So this, for example, would show you VOR1 and a DME readout, and you can do the same thing also for VOR2 or ADF or FMS2. Okay. So I leave this on VR1 and VR2. You can do the brightness of the displays here, PFD and so on. All right. And you can activate TCAS on the navigation display, weather radar, and by the way, terrain if you have the terrain plugin. And then in theory you can switch between the some kind of nav format, the format of the display. This is by no means realistic in any way. This is COM1. They have actually this kind of a reserve radio or something where you can also do your frequencies. Also works from outside with my hardware. 122.8. All right, and I can switch this over. But the radios are here as well, and you can actually use this to set the frequencies. It is a bit cumbersome, okay, but it's possible to do that. And a bit more cumbersome is getting the transponder set. You first need to click in there, and then you need to click as long until you have actually the value that you want. You cannot enter it. Okay. And then by clicking here, you cycle through the transponder mode. Yeah, the rest is basically not coded. You can do a little chime here, but that's about it. The rest is dead. All right. Now, when it comes to this display, let me see. I am going to pop in that display. I think that's easier to see then. Here you can switch between 3 modes: engine parameters, navigation display. You can bring it onto the Copilot's display, and systems. And when you have systems, you have the electric systems, the engine systems, the fuel system, and the door system. And we have one door open, or all. Now, as you can see, engine system looks the same, but you cannot switch. So if you want to switch, you need to have this on system. And basically you can do the same thing also on the main display here, okay? But since we need something where we can see our navigation display, I'm going to leave this on nav. So that we have the nav display again. And you can control the brightness of the center display and also of the radio with this one knob. And that's about it. Okay. There isn't really that much more. There is a cabin. And that's what it looks like. Very simplistic. Not really a nice cabin, but we are not flying in the cabin, so I suppose that's not too bad. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to make it dark again, because the try and fly happens in the dark. And we have the dome light on, although it doesn't really, like, this looks a bit dark here, but it's okay. Everything can be red, so we're fine. Now we come to this mod that I was talking about. I have the RealityXP GTN. I'm activating the GTN, and the mod, which is basically a configuration for the Garmin, actually puts this directly inside the captain's display. All right. So that's how this works. So we've got now the display, and what I can do is I can call up the map, and I can also enter the flight plan, and that's exactly what we're going to do now. So I'm going to move over here. Now that's not realistic. Okay, so this is a mod, but it kind of makes up for the very limited navigation display that we have normally. What I lose if I do that is I lose the display of the surfaces, control surfaces, and so on. But that is not that bad. So I'm going to do flight plan, Echo Delta Delta Mike. Click on this. Load procedure, departure, and oh yeah, I'm just trying to think which one that was. No, it was not anchor, it was Algo to Echo, I think. Nope, that was not it. No, I think we're on the wrong. I'm a little bit confused now because I forgot what our departure was. I need to check my flight plan. So I've prepared a lot, but I forgot actually to check our flight plan. Let me see. I've got this sorted. So that's the route that we want to put in. So we are flying via let's see. Zeige Prozeduren. So let's go to yeah. Procedures. Cologne? What? This is not Cologne. Zeige Abflugprozeduren. And it's not anchor. It's not BBAC. Oh, back, no. I completely forgot what my departure was called. And that has to happen now in the video, right? It's actually anchor 8 Quebec. So now we've got it. Anchor 8 Quebec. There you go. So I should have kept the nav map open. And then from anchor we fly to let's have a quick look. Flugplan. So that's the plan. So we fly anchor, then Bamta, Rosap, Bamta and Rosap. That was it. Okay, load the departure. Now we go down here, add waypoint Bamta. I got mixed up with Friedrichshafen. That's why I couldn't find it. I was trying to take the names that we have in Friedrichshafen, but that's not Friedrichshafen. That's Munich, Bamta. And then comes Rosap. Rosap. Enter. And we're now putting in Munich. And we load procedures. And the first is the approach. No, hang on. That's not what I wanted. First is the... yeah. Okay. ILS 08 left. And transition is Mike. All right. Load the approach. Yes. Now let's have a look. So, yeah, this, I think this has to go. Bamta Rosap, that needs to go. Remove. Okay. I think that should do it. Let's have a quick look at the flight plan. Does that look somewhat right? Yes, it does. So we've got the flight plan in there. That's all I need to do anyway. Okay, so here we can see it, and I can now use the this GTN to do the flying for me, the lateral flying. I need to just make sure that it is switched on GPS, so that when we go onto nav mode, and I think for this one I need to put the source on nav. Oh no, okay, it seems to be blocked. Okay, that's fine, I think. Right, yeah, that should do. So we have our flight plan in there, and now we can go through the rest of the procedure. So first thing is we're going to close the door. No, we're going to close the door. And we're going to hide this whole stuff out there. And then we're going to call for better pushback. I had some trouble with better pushback. I got myself the latest version and installed it, and that seems to have fixed it again. So I'm going to put myself here on the yellow line. Enter.
Bodenanbrücke. Der Plan ist eingereicht. Bitte rufen Sie mich über das Menü, wenn Sie bereit sind.
Okie dokie. We're going to do that. Now, APU is running. We need to turn off the bleed area. We need to make sure that these are in off position and minimum. And we still have the generator. We're going to turn on the ignition for both engines. And we're also going to turn on the beacon. So we put it now on the red, so that we now have the blinking lights. And we're going to ask Better Pushback to come now.
Bodenanbrücke. Der Schlepper bringt sich in Position.
Okie dokie. Please do that. And since we are on APU, we can start the engine. And what I would do is I would actually do the engine start for number 2 first. So I put the select on number 2. Then I go down here and I put this into the start feather position, because down here the fuel is blocked. All right. By the way, the gust lock doesn't work here. Yeah. And I'm going to press start. Yeah, and don't ask me why it's getting red there. It shouldn't really. And I don't think that has worked. I had an idea that that might happen. So we are in dish. Okay, we have that one up. We do have APU control, generator. Okay, let's stay on that button for a bit longer. But it does not sound like the engines are starting, right? No, it's not moving. So what am I missing? Let's see. I think we need to turn the generators off in this model. Yeah, that could be. So I'm turning the generators off. There was something. I think that was it. Yeah. In this model, if you want to start your engine, you need to turn the generators off. I don't think that's necessary in the real aircraft, but yeah. The volumes aren't really very high, aren't they? Let's see. Oh. I was wondering actually. Yeah, okay. Aircraft interior. Now we're talking. Why were they off? Why would they do that? Anyway, we have our first. Now we're switching over to number 1. And stay on it for a bit. And we release the parking brake in the meantime. Oh, and don't forget to bring this into the start feather position. Okay, that hasn't worked now because I forgot. I'm doing too many things at the same time. Let's try that again. Fuel flow is starting. looking good. All right. So we leave them in the feather position for the moment. We can turn off the APU now. Now we hear something of the APU. I was wondering why it was so quiet. Why did they turn off all the sounds? And I'm turning on the generators now. Back on. So let's see. Pitot static are going to turn on. And the AC generator lights that we can see here, they will go out as soon as we also got the windshield heat on. As soon as we move the prop levers forward, because there's in the feather position they don't produce enough electricity. And what was that again? LTRU, I think that's the same thing. Ice detect failed.
Der Push-Vorgang ist abgeschlossen. Bitte setzen Sie die Parkbremse.
Setzen Sie die Parkbremse. Parking brake is on.
Schlepper wird getrennt. Einen kleinen Moment bitte.
That's not really as I would like it. So I'm putting them now into the minimum position. Or you know what? I'm going to use the...
Der Schlepper wurde entfernt, der Bypasspin ist gezogen, Freizeichen gibt's von der linken Seite. Einen angenehmen Flug. Tschüss.
I don't think that's working somehow. Okay. Yeah, you see the lights are off now. Ice detect fail. I think that all has to do with the RPM. So as soon as we apply some power, I think they're coming on. Okie dokie. Flaps 1. Which is the flaps position 5. And we're going to turn the auxiliary fuel pumps on during takeoff. So this is in the end top position. As I say, these switches, by the way, they're not doing what they would do in real life, but you can change the prop setting in the 3 main positions. Max for takeoff, 900 during climb, and then when we are on cruise we switch to 850. We use the MCR setting. Okay, taxi lights turn on, and let's taxi to 08 left. Have we actually turned the right way? Can that be? Yeah, where are we? Yes, we are right. Okay, we're fine. Links ist frei, rechts ist frei. Off we go. Parking brake off. Now. Due to the many explanations and the stuff I'm talking about, this is going to be a slightly longer try and fly, as you probably already may have realized. So you're on Whiskey 1 now. So I hope that all the response curves and hardware settings are correct. Now somehow I've managed to get all my speeds overwritten again. Yeah, but I'm rotating around 110, 115 normally. So this disk position here. So we have some strange effects. I have 1132 now in the meantime, and we appear to get some really strange effects here. See this? Some strange light effects. Weird. I'm not using ATC today. We're just going to fly the route. And we're going to take Alpha 3. Okay. Parking brake on. Make sure that you're in the disc position with your throttle levers, which is not quite at the 0 position, okay? Because the 0 is the beta. It's actually, yeah, it can be a bit difficult because you need to sort of remember where you have to keep your throttle levers when you have a hardware. This is the park brake, by the way. The other thing we're going to quickly check is that our trim is in the takeoff area. It is. So what we're going to do now is we're going to turn on off the dome light. Going to turn and we're switching to white anti-collision light, which is strobes. And we're switching the landing lights on. Okay. And the other thing we're going to do is we go here and bring and put it on put it on now. Transponder, parking brake off, line up. So, heading 080 and altitude going to climb to flight level 200. I'm already setting up the altitude here.
Approaching 08 left.
08 left, confirmed.
On runway 08 left.
Okay, so we've got line up. Let's quickly check the heading. 080, flight level 200, and
On runway 08.
yeah, I think that should do. Now I'm bringing the throttle levers forward. Check. 115, rotate. Oops, 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 oops.
Positive rate.
Gear up. So we have a bit of trouble here. Keeping the... So, now, a vertical speed. And nav. And autopilot yaw damper on. So, I'm going to do 1500. And it's now following the flight plan. We are climbing with about 1500 feet per minute, and I need to now take back the power and also switch to the other power setting, which is the 900, roughly 900 RPM. And we bring the flaps back. Actually, it did this on its own. So as soon as it reaches a certain speed, it actually brings home the flap without even asking. So we're nicely following the course line, so that works out quite well here with the GTN. And we're a little bit on the fast side because we're reaching the barber pole here, the red area, so I'm reducing now the thrust so that we stay below the red. So I'm now going to climb a little bit more, 1800 feet per minute. You can see this here. Right. So, that looks pretty good so far. Transition altitude. Need to press on the gyro knob, but we have standard atmosphere anyway, 1013. I thought actually it should be less than that, but today it seems to not be correct, because normally my scenario would have a lower pressure, but yeah, well, I'm taking what is there now. So 08 left, by the way, we're going to land has 109.5 for the ILS frequency, which is nav1, so it's on standby actually, 109.5. Yeah. I'm going to transfer it, so it is now on nav1, which we're going then to use for the ILS approach. So I have a feeling that we might not reach the flight level 200. So we've got a bit slower now, because we're climbing a bit faster. 10,000. Landing lights off. The standby instrument, by the way, never worked, so they haven't coded that either. I just need to be careful that we're not getting slower. We were a little bit fast at the beginning. Shouldn't have kept the power up too long. So we're now flying towards Bamtu, or Bamta. Bamta as it's called. Now that is a much more useful navigation display, but you need to have the GTN. It's a payware. You get it from RealityXP, and you need to have a configuration that places it then here into this display. You could also, instead of having it there, you could actually have it as a normal window and still use it. But I thought that somehow that was, yeah, it was a bit better, because you have it in the aircraft and you can actually see it. We might actually be reaching flight level 200 with a bit of luck. We're now at 140 something. And then we're going to come down again because our flight plan would foresee that we're flying back here and then towards Mike, and at Mike we need to be at 5,000 feet, which means that we're going to start the descent pretty much shortly before we reach Bamta and go here on the turn to Rosap. Yeah, it seems that the elevator is still pretty sensitive. I had really thought that I got that already, but you know, so that's the Dash-8. Let's see, go to the Cessna yoke. No, my response curve is gone. Why? Yeah, I'm not asking. Let's do that again. So what I'm usually doing is I am flattening the curve so that my elevator is less response around the null zone, okay, and then it when I really pull strong, then it would have some more, so that should hopefully fix the problem. Because I had a problem again during the takeoff. It was, you could see the thing going up and down very quickly, and that was because obviously my response curve has gone lost again. There's not really very much we can see here. Oops. What was that? A yellow caution light. What have we overlooked? Cabin pressure. Oops. We must have forgotten something. Oh yeah. We actually didn't turn on the bleeds. So people are starting to suffocate. Well, not anymore, but we are on almost flight level 200. So yeah, we have quite a bit of altitude, and I'm not sure if this how realistic this really is here. Yeah, but I actually forgot to turn these on. Should have done that right after the engine start. We're on flight level 200. 1000. And we can see how that the speed is actually dropping. I need to provide a bit more power. So let's see what happens when we... Oh, did I press altitude select? No, I didn't. So let's press alt now. I forgot. I told you and then I forgot. You must turn on altitude select or the aircraft will not stop at the altitude that you have selected. So I'm going to no. Go down, down, down. We don't want up, we want down. Now it's coming down. So altitude select. Yeah, we got a bit slow now. Maybe I should have stayed on the max power setting, because we got quite slow. Anyway, we're approaching Bamta Rosap, so I'm going to bring down the altitude now to 150. And actually what we're going to do is I'm going to use the IAS mode, which now should hold the speed at about 215. I'm going to make it 220. Alright. And now I'm taking back the power. And because we are reducing the power, it tries to counteract by descending. And I can now control how much or how fast we descend. Let's not forget the alt cell. Okay, altitude select. Indicated airspeed 220. Now if I want to have a navigation display, I could actually switch it here. Then I would have also a navigation display together with the weather radar and the terrain radar. Yeah, the cockpit lighting is not that great. It's okay. But it's actually almost impossible. Tell you the truth, I can hardly read. I really need to go to scroll there, so it's very hard to read the indications here when you are from this end. Yeah, it's very small, so I have to look twice. So we're now at shortly after Rosap, and we're at 17,500. Going into the flight idle position now, also something that we can't really see. Okay, so the night lighting is not perfect, and you really need to turn the dome light on. So I'm bringing it now into flight idle. Thing is also that we now need to bring the altitude to 5,000 for Mike, and by the rate we have at the moment, yeah, very difficult. So 5,000, I use my hardware. So we're going to use IS mode, and we'll keep it on this rate. It's about 2,000 feet per minute at the moment. not sure actually if you could bring this out as a window. Let's see. Show the window. Oh yeah. Okay, so that's a bit better. Now let's have a quick look at the flight plan. So we're flying towards MIQ at the moment from Rosap. And then we're going, yeah, Magat C5000. So according to this, we need to be at 5000 at Mike. I'm not sure what these are. They don't really make sense. And then the constraints are 5000, Magat 5000, and then we intercept the final approach fix for the ILS 08 left. Okay. Okay. Can we see anything from Munich? No. We're through the clouds again, I think. So we're now approaching 10,000. I think we can descend a little bit slower now because we still have some miles to go. So, turning the landing lights on. So MIQ is still 20 miles, 20 nautical miles to go. $15 miles to MIQ, Mike. Oh yeah, the fuel pumps, we should have turned them off actually, and also the hydraulic pump. Well, we're going to turn them on when we are on the approach again. I was a little bit distracted now. $12 miles. You can now also see that the barber pole keeps coming closer the lower we get. $10 miles. It's raining now, and we have some slight turbulences. Eight miles. So I'm decluttering the map a little bit. $1,000. Oh, that's going to work out quite nicely. We need to watch out for the speed now, because as soon as we are in the altitude hold mode, we're going to require more power. So we're now approaching MIQ. And it's now also 5,000 is also the transition altitude. So we're turning. And we reached 5,000. I'm applying more power. I'm also going to bring those to end top again. We're now flying around. There's the airport. So you see this here, and then to the left, and then we align. So let's try and stay on roughly 220 for the moment, and then we reduce to about a 200 or 190 for the approach. Okay, 5 miles before we turn left. All right. The approach, I'm going to turn on the fuel pumps again and put it back on hydraulic power, the standby power. So we should be turning left any moment. So I'm now reducing speed to 190. So 3 miles, then we're going to turn onto final. And we can then also quickly use the heading mode once we are on the line. For the approach, I'm going to use the heading mode to keep the heading for the moment. And then I'm going to activate the ILS. For that we need to then switch from FMS to VR1. So we're turning now. And so I'm switching to heading mode. Then I switch the CDI to VOR, and now I'm activating nav mode and actually approach mode. So glide slope is armed. And now reducing the speed. Glide slope is captured, localizer is captured. Flaps 1 or 5. Five miles, gear down. Flaps 10.
2500.
So we're on the glide slope established. Flaps 35. Have to be careful now with the speed. So 3 green, flaps full. The spoilers are in flight mode. Yeah, we seem to be a little bit again off the track. Seems to be some problem with the ILS in Munich here on 08 left, because most aircraft are slightly not 100% centered, but yeah, it's close enough. And we can see that there is some strong wind pushing us, so the autopilot is trying to compensate for that. So you can't do auto land with this one here, but I'm going to let it get quite close before I take over. Careful now with the speed. We're about 110, which is okay, but we shouldn't really get under that. Oh yeah, it's struggling. The autopilot is struggling. I actually touched the trim. That's, but I'm taking over now anyway. Getting pushed a bit. Whoa! Whoa! Okay, that was not very good. So spoilers have deployed. We are in beta range. Okay, that didn't work out well. At the end, my response curve wasn't good, because when I pulled on the yoke, I actually reached that point where it got into the fast area, and then we just and when that happens so shortly before the runway, that's what you get then. 596, my god. Okay, rest in peace. Ah well. Anyway, we just about made it. Why is this standby again? I'm pretty sure I had it on. Anyway, maybe it done it automatically, I don't know. Flaps up. And put that in taxi mode. And landing lights off, taxi lights on. The taxi lights are almost useless. Strobes off. Yeah, so the elevator I need to still tweak a bit. It's one of these aircraft that was always very sensitive, especially on the pitch axis. And yeah, I haven't yet got the solution yet. But yeah, I'm going to tweak, doing some test flying then. So yeah, I'll get that sorted eventually. So I'm not going to muck around a lot and taxi for a long time. We're just going to get to the next position here. I would say we take already passed that one. We take the next one. Let's turn off the taxi lights so we don't blind anyone, and I'm going to do the quick start of the APU. The very quick start. It's a bit far away, huh? Hard to read. But you can see the display, see it there? It's just very... It is difficult to read though, from the distance. I think we need to stop. Yeah. I'm not sure how you're supposed to be able to read this. 3 meters, 2 meters, 1 meter, stop. Okay. Okie dokie. Parking brake. Parking brake on. And number 1. And number 2. So that's normal. And we can open the door. So, and welcome back in Munich. Yeah, actually something I haven't shown you is how you get your weight and stuff. For that you need to call up this 3D menu, which is interesting way of doing this. And then you can do presets like low, medium and high load. Okay, you can say load and then it actually or you go and manually do things here. You can also set the fuel. I mean, we had enough, and you can check that your center of gravity is okay. So it has to be inside these 2 red lines. Then you see the aircraft weight here. Hours 29.4. Okay, is that how much I have flown with this? Yeah, so that's the weight and balance. It's a bit strange that they do it as a 3D thing, whereas this here is a 2D menu. There is a pushback capability built in, but yeah. So as I say, the last update was, I think, in 2017. So we are waiting kind of for a bit more modernized version of this. Yeah, looking forward to hopefully getting this eventually. Right, that's it. That's the FlyJsim Dash with the GTN navigation display. I think that worked quite well. I'm actually pretty happy with it. Yeah. So yeah, I actually thought that you can click somewhere and get the window open, but no, it's not. Right, thanks for watching. I hope that was somewhat helpful. And then I would say until next time.